The markets are closed, but the business stories are just heating up. Hello, I'm Mai Rodriguez. Catch up with us on Business Brief. Asian stocks rise as signs of easing trade tensions between China and the U.S. boost risk appetite in a strong start to a week headlined by central bank meetings and mega-cap earnings. All major Asian markets trade in the green, with Japan's Nikkei leading gains up more than 2%. In the currency market, the U.S. dollar strengthens against the Japanese yen, while holding steady against the Hong Kong dollar, the Singapore dollar, and the Thai baht, but it weakens against the South Korean won. The Australian dollar, meanwhile, advances against the greenback. In commodities, gold drops over 1%, while oil prices move higher. In cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin gains more than 1%, and Ethereum adds about 4%. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and other ASEAN leaders hold a summit with South Korean President Lee Jae-myung. On day 2 of the 47th ASEAN Summit in Kuala Lumpur, they emphasized Korea's contributions to inclusive development across the region in various sectors, including cybersecurity, maritime partnership, and disaster management. The regional bloc granted South Korea full dialogue partner status in 1991. An upgraded version of the China-ASEAN free trade deal is set to be signed on October 28th. It is expected to open new economic opportunities for the Philippines. President Marcos will witness the landmark signing. Foreign Affairs Secretary Maria Teresa Lazaro says the deal would modernize and strengthen the region's economic ties with China. She adds the deal would cover cooperation in green and digital economies, sustainable supply chains, and greater participation of micro, small, and medium enterprises in regional value chains. It will also ensure fair competition and inclusive growth. Business and labor groups turn up the heat as they demand that the government implement concrete actions to address corruption issues hounding the country. Paolo Barcelon has the details.
Some of the country's biggest labor groups teamed up with big names in business to urge President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. to act tougher in the fight against corruption. In a 2-page statement released Sunday, the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the Philippine Exporters Confederation, and the Employers Confederation of the Philippines, together with the Federation of Free Workers, Sentro Nagkaisa Labor Union, and the Trade Union Congress of the Philippines, urged the government to step up its anti-corruption efforts. Among their demands, regular sectoral dialogues, contempt powers for the ICI, a special division in the anti-graft court to deal with infrastructure corruption cases, quick recovery of ill-gotten wealth, and increased civil society participation in the budget process. PhilExport President Sergio Ortiz Luis says the move aims to push the government to swiftly act on corruption allegations.
We have a common stand. Ayaw namin ang magulo. Ayaw namin kasi magkagulo na yung some people will take it on their hands to do extra constitutional method to be able to get this. Yun ang ayaw iiwasan namin. So binamadali namin ang presidente para maiwasan ito. At gusto namin talaga masolve itong problema at meron mga tinutukoy sila na dapat managot na kung bakit di pa nananagot hanggang ngayon.
Ortiz Luis adds business and labor leaders are growing impatient with the case buildups by authorities.
Bubuksan itong kaso na gano'n, babalikan yung mga nakawang kaso. Parang nawawala ang concentration, parang naliligaw. Gusto nila kung on the table, tapusin muna at para makita ng tao na seryoso at para bumaba yung tensyon.
PhilExport says while some in the business community will not join protest actions, the group will remain open for statements from various sectors as it pushes for faster resolution of the flood control mess, including DPWH Secretary Vince Dizon's proposal to initiate civil forfeiture proceedings on properties and assets allegedly acquired through flood control funds. Paolo Barcelon, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
The National Privacy Commission calls for heightened vigilance from the public in connection to reports personal information of GCash customers are being sold online. The NPC has written to GCash operator GExchange Incorporated to get more details on the supposed data breach. But in a statement posted online, GCash asserts there is no evidence of any breach in its systems, adding that all customer accounts and funds remain secure. It also says it remains fully committed to safeguarding customer data, upholding the trust of millions of Filipinos. The government is borrowing far less, a sign that public spending has slowed sharply. Gross borrowings dropped by 65% in September as the Treasury tightened new loan inflows. Treasury data showed total gross borrowings fell to 128.9 billion pesos, down from 367.2 billion in the same month last year. Month-on-month, gross borrowing slid by 74.65% from 508.5 billion in August. Domestic borrowings, which made up over 93% of the total, declined 17% to 120.5 billion pesos. External borrowings, mainly project loans, plunged 96% to just 8.4 billion pesos. The Bangko Sentral is moving fast to keep cash flowing in calamity-hit areas, rolling out new relief measures for banks and their clients. The package includes financial aid for affected staff, longer grace periods for borrowers, and payment deferments for agricultural loans. Branch operations in disaster-hit areas may be temporarily adjusted without prior BSP approval. To ensure liquidity, banks not yet enrolled in BSP systems like PhilPass Plus or the regional operations subsector may withdraw funds directly from BSP regional offices. Overall, the new rules are meant to help banks and communities recover faster and keep local economies alive during and after calamities. We're taking a short break, and more stories are coming up next. You're watching Business Brief. You're back in Business Brief. The consolidated net income of the Philippine National Bank climbs to 18.5 billion pesos in the first 9 months of the year. In its disclosure, the bank says this is 23% higher compared to the same period last year. Total revenue grew 8%, driven by a 9% increase in loans, a 13% rise in investment securities, and an 18% boost in fee-based income. Meanwhile, BDO Unibank Incorporated reports a net income of 63.1 billion pesos in the first 9 months. The bank says this is 4% higher than the 60.6 billion pesos recorded in the same period last year. BDO attributes the growth to the sustained performance of its core business segments. The consolidated core net income of Meralco rises to 40 billion pesos as of end September. In its disclosure, the company says this is higher than the 35.1 billion pesos recorded in the same period last year. The distribution utility business continues to account for the largest share at 55% or 21.9 billion pesos. Investment company Actram is expecting the Bangko Sentral to further cut rates by another 25 basis points in December to address the country's growth concerns. However, macro and sustainability research head Jose Marie Lacson tells BNC's Business 360 this might put pressure on the peso in the last quarter. He says, though, this can still be managed.
We also believe that the Federal Reserve will also start cutting their own rates. So there's just a timing difference for us, meaning we might actually see this weakness in the fourth quarter, but once the Federal Reserve starts cutting, then the interest rate differential will start widening again, and this will now sort of stabilize the peso. Having said that, the peso is still, it can still be managed. I'd just like to point out that we have sufficient international reserves to stabilize the peso at this point. So we do believe that in this interim, I guess the temporal volatility will be managed by the BSP.
Okay. Bloomberry Resorts Corporation announces the spin-off and eventual sale of its South Korean casino business. Its indirect subsidiary, Golden and Luxury Company Limited, which operates a hotel and casino property in Jeju, has signed a share purchase agreement with Gangwon Blue Mountain Company Limited. The buyer has paid a down payment of about $360,000, equivalent to 500 million Korean won. The completion of the transaction will depend on the demerger, due diligence, and regulatory approvals. The deal comes as Bloomberry has been trying to offload the South Korean business, which continues to struggle post-pandemic. The consolidated earnings of Concepcion Industrial Corporation rise to 278.7 million pesos in the fourth quarter of 2024. In its disclosure, the company said this was 57% higher compared to the same period in the previous year. The country's leading provider of consumer, lifestyle, and enterprise solutions explained that the growth was driven by strong sales execution and sustained market demand. We're taking another breather, a look at how Philippine shares did today when we return. Stay tuned. The U.S. and China reach a trade framework, potentially preventing Washington from slapping a 100% tariff on Chinese imports. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says China agreed to delay its expanded export controls on rare earths for a year, following 2 days of trade talks in Malaysia. President Donald Trump is expected to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping in South Korea this week.
The president had given me maximum leverage when he threatened 100% tariffs if the Chinese imposed their rare earth global export controls. So I think we have averted that so that the tariffs will be averted.
French police detained 2 people over the weekend in connection with the shocking jewelry heist at the Louvre Museum. One suspect was arrested at the Charles de Gaulle airport as he prepared to board an international flight. The Paris prosecutor's office said the estimated worth of the stolen jewels is more than $102 million. Philippine shares closed the first trading day of the week in negative territory. The PSEI ended nearly 1% lower at 59.33. All sectoral indices were in the red, with mining and oil falling the most at nearly 3%. Decliners outnumbered advancers 131 to 55, with value turnover at 18.8 billion pesos. Majority of the day's most active stocks were in the red, with BDO Unibank falling the most at almost 4%. In currency markets, the peso trades at 58.59 against the US dollar, stronger from the previous close of 58.63. That's a wrap for today's Business Brief. I'm Mai Rodriguez. Join us again tomorrow as we bring you the stories that help you plan your next big, bold moves in business, only here on the Bilyonaryo News Channel.